Hi everyone, welcome to QSC Orlando. It's heartwarming to see such happy and beautiful faces in the audience. My name is Himanshu Kathpal. I'm Senior Director for Product Management for Qualys Platform and Sensors. Yesterday, in some awesome sessions, you heard from Sumed and Shailesh and my peers that how Qualys Enterprise True Risk Platform helps you to measure unified and quantified risk, communicate the right data to the right people at the right time, and go from risk enumeration to risk elimination. The key to do all of that depends on how well you are leveraging the Qualys Enterprise Risk platform. In this session, we will be discussing some of the treasures which you can find in Qualys that you must be using to get better ROI from the platform, not just in terms of dollar, but in terms of better cybersecurity and better efficiency for your teams so that they can spend their time on some other stuff as well. Let's start with the first measurement, which is asset inventory risk. As the famous axiom goes, you can't secure what you don't know. And Qualys has the most versatile list of sensors that will provide you the complete inventory of all the assets which are part of your hybrid environments. So Qualys has physical scanners which you can use for your for your legacy devices, for your data centers. Qualys has virtual scanners which you can use for your virtualized environment or for your corporate environment as well. Qualys has parameter scanners which can be used for finding assets on the internet. That coupled with EASM gives you 100% visibility of all the assets which are exposed to the internet that belongs to your domain. Qualys also has passive sensors that will help you to passively sniff the data. Qualys natively integrates with multiple CMDB tools like BMC and ServiceNow so that you can, there's a two-way sync so that you can get the assets from these integrations back into Qualys, and all the rich metadata which is collected by Qualys agent can be fetched into CMDB to enrich it. And lastly, the most versatile of all the scanners is Qualys Cloud Agent. And yesterday you might have heard that we just announced that now Qualys Cloud Agent can also do passive sensing. With Qualys Cloud Agent passive sensing, we will be able to detect 100% of the devices which are communicating in your network at all times. And it just takes like 5 minutes to do the whole setup. Moving on, how to effectively measure your risk. Once you have identified all the assets in your network, the next step is to organize your assets in the most optimal way. And Qualys provides you dynamic and static tags to do that. There are multiple tagging strategies which you should be using, such as you should be tagging and organizing your assets based on the locations, based on the operating systems, based on the asset nomenclature, and also assigning business criticality to these assets. The next step after you have organized your assets is to ensure that you are merging the assets in the most optimal manner. If you are using Qualys Cloud Agents and you are also running unauthenticated scans for the remote QIDs, you should be merging those assets. If your assets has multiple interfaces, you should be merging those interfaces so that you can get one unified view per asset. This helps you to ensure that you are not multiplying your vulnerabilities for the same asset by running different kinds of scans on them. And Qualys will provide you one view per asset so that you know the exact business and true risk score for that asset. After the asset merging, the next thing that you should be focusing on is to set up proper asset purging rules. As more and more businesses are going to the cloud infrastructure and assets have grown a lot. These assets normally includes a lot of ephemeral assets which comes online for like few minutes, few hours, few days, or sometimes a few months. But they go down and they get to terminated state at some point in time. Qualys provides out-of-the-box system-generated purge rules based on the terminated state on all cloud providers, and we also provide purge rules based on the last updated date. For example, if you're seeing that your asset is not scanned in the last 6 months or your agent is not online in the last 2 months, you can use the system-provided rules to purge your assets. This will ensure that your IT teams are not running after the vulnerabilities which are not part of the system anymore, and your cybersecurity risk score is not getting screwed up with those unwanted assets. After this, let's talk about scan strategies. So Qualys offers different types of scans which you can leverage to get the maximum benefit for your subscription. On any asset on which you can install agent, you should do it. No matter how mature you are, even if you are running daily scans with Qualys Cloud Agent, you would be able to get data 6 times in a day. Qualys agent runs scans every 4 hours, and we also have an option where you can run an on-demand scan for both vulnerability management, policy compliance, and the other supported modules. That is useful when you're trying to do a whitelisting of an image or you're trying to pass a golden image and you do not even want to wait for the next 4 hours schedule to happen. The next thing after it is to ensure that you are monitoring the GA, EOL, and EOS life journey of your software and hardware. Qualys do provide you this information so that this information can be used to ensure that you are upgrading your assets in the most optimal time frame and you are not getting burdened or surprised when a vendor has announced EOS and you do not have time or you have not done enough tests to upgrade your softwares or hardwares. Qualys also have multiple integrations for the CI/CD use cases. We do integrate with Atlassian Bamboo, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, Visual Studio, and more. So with these integrations, what you can do is, if you are, let's say, you're trying to create a Docker image, or you're trying to create a golden image for your VM or PC assets as well, or even a web application. You can run the scan with these devices and set a criteria that if only these vulnerabilities are identified, then this image is passed, otherwise that image will not go into production. This will ensure that the security is going into the hands of development team as well, and you're not spending extra efforts because those vulnerabilities that could have been identified in the CI/CD phase are now part of your production and are multiplied by 10x, 100x, or thousands of x's based on the number of images which have been spun up based on those assets. This was all about how do you manage assets in your environment. Now, on top of it, you need to extend your measurement of risk beyond vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. In this digital era, almost every company is producing their softwares which they are leveraging in their environment. So Qualys now provides an option where you can start creating your own QIDs, and these QIDs are now natively integrated into the VMDR solution. This ensures that all the workflows which you have implemented for the third-party QIDs, like running host-based reports or API calls, you don't need to change any of that. All of that is natively and seamlessly integrated into the Qualys platform, and you can start tracking first-party risk assessment along with the third-party risk assessment. The next step which you should definitely do, and this is becoming more and more common, is the vulnerabilities associated with the open source components. In the realm of modern software development, OSS has gained a lot of prominence. More than 90% of the contemporary code bases contains OSS, and more than 40% of them have exploitable vulnerabilities. Qualys now has provided an option where you can just activate SC on your agents, and you will be able to get the complete information of all the components which are present on both first party and third party. And we have also released more than 16,000 QIDs which are natively related to OSS. So this gives you a complete picture of your vulnerabilities associated with operating systems, first-party softwares, third-party softwares, and OSS as well. On top of it, you can also identify exploitable vulnerabilities with our EDR and EPP solution. And for your critical assets, and especially regarding the new guidelines from PCI 4.0, you need to start monitoring the drift changes as well on those critical assets. For that, Qualys provides file integrity monitoring, again, on the same powerful agent which you are using for VM and other applications. Coming to the next pillar, how to communicate the right data to the right people at the right time using Qualys platform. Communication is communication is one of the most important part of this whole thing. We have been able to reduce mean time to detection to up to 4 hours with the agent. Now comes the next pillar on how to reduce the mean time to communicate. Qualys do provide out-of-the-box reporting templates in which you can create customized reports based on true risk score, based on high-risk assets, MTTR, and these reports can be catered to the audience. For example, we do provide reports that you can submit to your C-level. We do provide reports that you can submit to your auditors, and that contains information like whether the controls are passing or failing. And all of these reports are based on the same UI and the microservice. This ensures that your team doesn't have to learn on how to run a different reports on policy compliance or on vulnerability management or on web applications. They have the same look and feel and leveraging the same backend so that the learning time is reduced for your team, and they can start leveraging and generating reports for all the components and all the vulnerabilities in a single go. Apart from these reports, we also provide unified and extensible widgets that you can use for viewing all of your vulnerabilities and misconfigurations with a 2-second visibility. Qualys has released a very extensive list of dashboards, the link of which is on the screen. And these dashboards can just be imported in your subscription, and they will provide you various kind of information. For example, they will provide you information about subscription health, they will provide you information about true risk score, or they will provide you information about the softwares which are EOL, EOS, etc. running in your environment. We do highly recommend that you prioritize these widgets based on risk, age, and RTIs. You can then also create widgets for your IT operations team, which would be based on disk space, which would be based on how many systems have pending reboot, tech debt, and missing critical software. The third way to communicate using Qualys is based on the alerting and the continuous monitoring service. So Qualys as a platform has a alerting service which can be leveraged by almost all the modules. Since you would be generating reports or you would be seeing widgets, for some crown jewel assets, you want to set up alerts for them so that if anything happens to those assets, you are not waiting to log into the Qualys platform or waiting for the API data to be downloaded. You want an immediate alert so that your team can get on it right away. We do highly recommend that you start alerting on unknown and unprotected assets and ports, especially the assets especially from the environments which are very critical for you. For example, if you have a mainframe environment, you obviously do not want any port getting open on your Z-Linux asset. You can also customize the rule engines to detect alerts. It can be based on the absence of a EDR component, or it can be based on the absence of a antivirus solution in your environment. You can also set alerts based on if any exploitable vulnerability is identified on an internet-facing asset. If it's an air-capped environment or if it's your corporate environment, you might be okay with the exploitable vulnerability and checking it in the reports or the API calls. But for an internet-facing asset, that becomes like a P0 for your team. Then you can also set alerts based on malware events and suspicious activity from our EDR and EPP solution. On top of it, we also provide ecosystem integrations with a variety of tools, SAM tools like QRadar, Splunk, VMware, and Jira. In tools like QRadar and Splunk, you can export all the vulnerabilities, all the misconfigurations across all the modules from Qualys. This will help you to ensure that if you are collecting similar information from other assets, you will have a consolidated place where the vulnerability information from Qualys and other tools is consolidated. Then you can also set alerts using QRadar and Splunk. Qualys also provides native integrations with tools like Jira so that you can create tickets based on your rule sets. For example, if you have a critical asset and a vulnerability with a QDS score of more than 800 is identified on it, you can automatically create a Jira ticket that will automatically be assigned to the system owner, and that will help you to reduce the mean time to communication and ultimately mean time to remediate as well. Coming to the last part of it, we have till now talked about how Qualys helps you to measure the risk, communicate the risk, but the most important of all is how to eliminate the risk. Qualys provides multiple options through which you can eliminate the risk. The first and the foremost is our extensive patch management solution, which is applicable for Windows, Mac, and Linux. We do provide support for tons of third-party software as well, so that it can help you reduce the overall risk. Now, obviously, you have heard enough about true risk, so you would obviously be prioritizing the vulnerabilities based on the high true risk score, which is generated by our algorithm. But in parallel to it, these are the 5 steps which we recommend that our customers should follow. The first step is to automate some of the vulnerabilities which are high risk, which are high risk from the security point of view, but are low risk from the operational point of view, so that you can automate patching for softwares like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or iTunes, etc. Then you should also check the vulnerabilities which are patched by your SCCM tool but are not fixed. They might require a configuration fix, which can be done by our patch management tool. After that, you need to check the vulnerabilities which are a little tough to fix. These can be related to Java or based on your databases. And then you should also be fixing the vulnerabilities on your Mac solutions, which we have. The solution for Mac was released around 6 months ago, and we have more than 1 million assets which are already being patched by our Mac solution. So all of this will lead to the smarter remediation based on the risk profiles. On top of it, on top of the patching, what you can also do is to use our CAR solution so that you can customize the remediation based on your first-party risk. You can also use, you can also support some use cases for your operational challenges. For example, if you want to change a registry key, you want to change a DLL, or you just want to stop a service. That can also be done by the Qualys platform. And we also provide out-of-the-box automation so that you can define whether, based on your risk threshold, whether you need to isolate the host or you need to kill a service using our EDR. The last component in the risk elimination is the risk associated with the certificates. So no matter how good our monitoring is, some of these certificates always fall through the cracks, and then it leads to instant business disruption. Qualys now has a solution where you can renew the certificates using Qualys CertV module, we have added the support for DigiCert, and we'll be adding the support for the other modules as well. We are also adding the capability into the agent where you can mass deploy the certificates using the same agent. The last part in the risk elimination is the cloud misconfigurations and associated risk. Using our total cloud module, you can eliminate the cloud misconfigurations, and you can automate these fixes for the exposure as well. We also have integrations with tools like we also have integrations with other tools where you can shorten the feedback loop to your DevOps. Again, taking the example of Jenkins or Atlassian Bamboo, you can create you can create the you can set up the alerts where these images would be scanned, and only when they pass your criteria, they would be pushed to the production. This will help you to ensure that Qualys as a platform is able to provide you the measurement, communication, and elimination of risk on your entire threat landscape. Lastly, this was just the tip of the iceberg. We would really encourage you to scan this barcode and get in touch with one of us or from our solution architect so that we can do a true risk assessment which is dedicated for your subscription. There would be tons of things which you're not using, and we can help you to de-risk your environment using Qualys Cloud Platform. Thank you.